paklausti, ar jūs mokat angliškai? Ta prasme, ar yra kažkas, kas nemoka angliškai? Viena ranka pakilo. So we have one person that doesn't speak English, and I wonder how can... Yeah, thank you very much for translating. Since our conversation will be in English, and we have very interesting guest with very zen approach, we just met in the cafe, and we spoke about our conversation, and we are both very zen, about this topic, and I hope you too, guys. And Agata Hae In JDPSN is our beloved teacher of our Sangha. I represent Vilnius Zen Center. We are here, Alvydas, more than 30 years or something in Vilnius, correct me? So we are practicing meditation, and we have visiting teachers. Agata is one of our teachers, and also a psychotherapist and a philosopher, to my understanding. And the topic of our today's conversation, we hope you will engage, is what are our misconceptions of emptiness in the West. And Agata wrote article. I'd like to advertise this primary point, this magazine of Plan of Zen School. And the article is Attachment to Emptiness in Culture Today. So let me start to explore this topic, and please also ask questions, raise your hand, or since we are pretty small audience, just use your voice, engage. So Agata.
So maybe before we begin, how much time do we have?
We have 1 hour and 30 minutes, something like that.
Not more than that, right? That's good. And do you have a little water or something? Anybody?
Laikroduką kažkas paskui.
Yeah, I do have this type of watch. Who has a mechanical watch?
This one is okay?
Oh, will it shine for us? Brilliant.
Will it shine for us?
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you very much.
You see it, just touch it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
please,
better than nothing.
please touch it. Yeah.
So why time? Because we didn't confess yet, but indeed we did meet in the cafe.
Yeah.
But we just 5 minutes ago decided what's gonna be a structure of this meeting. And with this very sophisticated philosophical concepts from 2,500 years ago in India, and then a little bit later, just a moment later, in China, and then in Korea, now in the West, with this sophisticated idea, we really need a structure. So at least maybe time will guard us,
Yes.
because we didn't prepare.
Well, preparation is also a concept of emptiness.
Well, we can apply the concept of emptiness to our preparation. Actually, we have to,
Yeah.
because it's going to be very flexible. Please be patient with us. Try to immerse yourself in. I think it's kind of a new type of reflection, because I wanted to start with what we spoke about, the village-like metaphors. So how many of you have read some Buddhist sutras, or at least maybe commentaries, contemporary commentaries with examples of what is Buddhist worldview, except us, right? So how many of you have read some of the sutras and medieval Chinese classical texts? Sutras, Linchi, Huangpo, come on, no? Okay. So how many of you have read Zen Master Sung San books? Okay, cool. So, hello. So, if you read Sung San Sunni's book, you must have read the story of Clear Mary, a dog, a racing dog, which is like going around the, let's say, arena, you know, because there is a dog race, right? So the Clear Mary is one of the dogs going around the arena, and you know there is a little rabbit there, which makes, you know, the dogs run after it. Did you know about it? Yeah. There is a little rabbit, but of course it's dead. And the dogs, you know, go around, go, you know, chasing the rabbit. The Clear Mary is explained as an example of a mind thinking out of the box, because it's like at a certain moment of the race, she doesn't go after the rabbit. She's stopping, and then she's perceiving the situation, you know, and all of a sudden she's like crossing the field and catching the rabbit, right? So she doesn't go around the thing. So that's one example, right? It's an allegory, and it seems quite modern, right? To explain Buddhist concept, especially if the sutra readers bring into their consciousness or like recall that most of the metaphors in the canon are about cultivating fields of the mind or protecting the cow of the mind, which is like, of course, going whenever she wants. It's about protecting the cow of the mind, not to enter the field so she kills the crops. I'm not sure how many of you feel emotionally engaged when you hear that. How many of you find it, inspiring? Do you think this allegory is matching, today's problems? These problems of, multicultural, postmodern society in which we have to deal with, various difficult phenomena. So the article I wrote is about more like difficult stuff we have to deal as Buddhists from the city in 21st century. And I try to think, do we have tools to comment on more complex stuff, like, neoliberal values, which are pushing people to overwork, to blame the, social minorities for not working hard enough and blaming them for not having success, right? Or do we have something to say about paying taxes? It's from the perspective of interdependence. Like if we are part of one, global net of like individuals coming together, in a very complex web of relationships, does it make sense to pay taxes? Maybe there's an ethical value of paying taxes, and so on and so on. The other examples are biohacking, the conservative shift, which means, returning to very strict perception of sexuality, for example. Right? There is a way, we as Buddhists, we can comment on that. What else was there? War and immigration. And how about minimal art and shock art? Why did we go away from beauty to shock and to reading ourselves from stimuli? For example, well, I'm not going to give examples now, but I just wanted to paint this picture, right?
Yeah.
And tell you from where I'm coming from. And I've never talked about it in public yet, because we also have this, saying that Zen is very simple, and in fact it is. But our urban lifestyle is not, and I think it's okay, to make it a little bit more complex to answer these problems.
Yeah. Yes. Oh. Yeah. So So actually, before our conversation, I looked at how many there are popular songs that use word emptiness, and what is the meaning, of this word in that songs. Guess, is it negative or positive meaning? Emptiness in pop songs.
Negative.
Yeah, negative. So, and recently I spoke with one person who said that she is really down. She's really very sad and very bad. And she was looking for the word, and she said, "I'm so empty, so empty." And yeah, so Agata, I'd like to explore this very idea of emptiness. This Heart Sutra says form is emptiness, emptiness is form, but still people attach certain meaning. Hello to this concept. I remember I first time sat a retreat. For 2 days I just was focusing on my breathing, and then I felt empty, happy, as Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh says, empty, happy. So my experience, literal, of that emptiness was joy, But yeah, so why, this? What is the concept of emptiness? Let's start with, what is this?
Let's just do it together.
Okay.
Okay. So, the Dharma is explained using 3 turnings of the wheel. So the first turning, that's, Shakyamuni on the... it's Shakyamuni talking about 5 skandhas, and it means if you look deeply into yourself, you're not gonna find a woman, a man, a Lithuanian, a American, politician, a healthy person, a gay person, what else? An idiot, a winner. Okay, these are the examples of psychological ways in which we are essentialists. What does it mean? It means we believe in a fixed self, which is explainable by using one word. Okay, and I think at a certain time in life we all do that. In the mornings or in the evenings, right? You all know. Are you a winner or are you a loser? Most of the time. And Zen practice is like sitting down, being a loser or a winner in the morning or in the evening for these 30 minutes. And you go inside. And then you look at these grand self-explanations and they slowly fade. And you breathe. And then when you breathe, it's like you're no longer a leftist, you're no longer a heteronormative person, you're like in and out. And obviously, at a certain moment, you no longer can follow your breath. So again, you're a loser. Or you can follow your breath very well, so you are a winner. And this notion of fixed self comes back online, right? And maybe with time, as the minute 15, 16, 17 passes, you can focus better and better. And despite just 15 minutes ago, a quarter ago, you were a loser, now you are a winner, so your self-dialogue changes. And that's okay, there's a new label for yourself, right? But at least you notice that there is a fluctuation of your identity. And the moment you see the fluctuation, it means you see the change. And when you see the change, right there, you're a Buddhist philosopher and you discovered anicca, which means it's actually the beginning of a Buddhist emptiness. Impermanence. Nothing exists in an absolute way. Wonderful, right? The losers think, so great. The winners think, that's so good. Yeah, so you discover, so in the beginning, emptiness means the impermanence of the skandhas, which means, your perceptions, your feelings, your dialogue, the impermanence, of all the stuff we think we are. So that's the first turning of the Dharma wheel. When you clean your mind, you notice everything's changing. You notice yourself is actually empty because it's changing. It's empty of anything solid. And then, as you said, we go a little bit further. 1,000 years from India. And then we discover that also, if we don't want to fall into nihilism, because if you look at yourself and you change all the time, so who you are? Who are you? Who are you?
Because let me stop, there. So even now we sit already like 18 minutes, and if you listen to our conversation, also enjoy the silence, and you noticed that all the ideas can drop away, and there is silence, and deeper there is emptiness. And there is emptiness, there is nothing, means no other ideas about what is good, bad, wrong, so everything is possible. So you can kill anybody if you wish, you can do whatever you like, because still everything is empty. When you break into this reality, you find nothing but emptiness. And if you study here with the conclusions, that's it, that's the worldview. Also in our school we have this kongan that you teach your students. This guy, dropping ashes.
You can also say it.
Yeah, a man enters the shrine and there is a Buddha on the altar. He approaches the Buddha, blows the smoke and drops ashes on the Buddha. And you as good Zen student says, hey man, it's not right.
It's a sacred object.
Yeah, it's like Buddha, we kind of like this.
Yeah, and
Buddha.
we are Buddhists.
But this guy says, well, that's bullshit, My ashes, cigarette, Buddha, everything is empty. What's the fuss, man? And then drops ashes. So the kongan goes, what would you do? So this is the
moment we are talking about.
Yeah.
Because I think that if we continue this guided meditation I took you to, so the guy can look at do we have something like holy here? The guy can look at the Buddha and he says, 1 million years ago, it was a piece of earth, and 1,000 million years ago it was part of the star. Why do you make it a holy Buddha? It's just stardust. So, and then in this way you can not only deconstruct your attachment to being somebody uncool, you can also deconstruct everything that's solid in life, right?
Yeah.
What is good, what is bad, what is holy, what is religious, what is, just, I don't know, basic elements, from the Mendeleev table.
Yeah.
Everything can kind of dissolve into nihilism, right? And I think
this is very, very
that's the
interesting moment of dissolving. If you break everything apart, stardust, then molecules, atoms, you break even further, and we don't know what's there, but very often many people come with idea that this is the cold void, cold, dark,
immoral,
sad void.
neutral.
Well, neutral is a nice word for this situation.
So yeah, but cruel is emotionally, saturated. So
Yeah, so pretty logical.
yeah.
Pretty logical. Why not? Yeah, hello. Such a dramatic moment you entered, guys.
So what do we have now? Like we started from the fixed idea of self, the identity, and it's not really trivial, because you can think your identity is about being a person with depression, or your identity can be you're a breadwinner at home, you have 5 children, and you have to afford their paid preschool, right? And then we start from contemporary problems. You cannot afford healthcare. Your healthcare. You're somebody like that, somebody with problems. And then let's say you start to practice Zen. You start to practice meditation, and we reach this moment, of the guy dropping ashes on Buddha, or we reach this moment of recognition that, in fact, if you look very deep inside, there's nothing to grasp, and nobody to be blamed, and nobody sick. And let's ask maybe the audience, where is the danger in that? Because doesn't it sound great? That's total freedom. It's like, you can unmask yourself from all the social duties. How great is that? But there is a problem there. There's a problem there which Buddha already recognized, and it's called, what is it called? What's the problem here? You don't have to use like big words. Why can it be problematic? What do you think? If everything is constructed,
Meaningless.
for example, it's meaningless. Exactly. And this is what the pop song example was about, right? I feel so empty. So when we look at Western philosophy, so in the 19th century, we have this industrial revolution. And it's a really optimistic time. It's even before, big tech, and yet we think we're gonna like conquer the world and conquer the animal realm, and actually we go eventually. We have trains, we have automobiles, we can travel much faster. It's a time of optimism until 2 world wars. And interestingly, what happens after war is this deep insight into loss and impermanence. Right? So we thought life is good. It's gonna be the end of the history, like this Fukuyama guy pronounced. The poverty rates are going down. What else was there? We can like produce stuff. There is this whole industrialization, cities and mass production. Like how do you call this? Manufacturing stuff using they designed the manufacture line, whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems life is good. That's the label, right? Life is good. City is great. The war comes and it like turns everything around. And again, you're no longer a winner. As a society, we are no longer winners. War came and took a lot of our safety. And this is when something similar to Buddhism happens in the West. It's called postmodernism. Philosophers like, Derrida, Foucault, Lyotard, Baudrillard, they say everything was constructed by our language, by by power, by people in power. It's all social convention, and there's nothing fixed in reality. It's all a great narrative, a story we told of ourselves about the world. And it's a very Buddhist moment. although it happens 2,500 years ago after Buddha. So Asians were a little bit faster in this insight, right?
Yeah.
2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
And with postmodernism also existentialism comes, and we all of a sudden see ourselves as this, Sisyphus going, like pulling this great rock under, like, how do you call it, like towards the top of the mountain, and it keeps falling down, so nothing makes sense, as you said, everything is meaningless, it doesn't have a universal value, no God will praise you for anything because God's dead, like Nietzsche said. So, what's the point of living? Our teacher calls it lack of direction. And Buddha is calling it nihilism. And we also can call it attachment to emptiness. Attachment to emptiness.
Yeah.
That's why the woman says she feels so empty, right?
Yes.
Meaningless, worthless. Everything turned out to be illusory. So what how can you build yourself back? If you are stardust, and if you are just a net of random thoughts which change. If you're careful, you're gonna see that in meditation. It changes from like 10 seconds to 10 seconds. Actually, Abhidharma says it changes many times per second.
Yeah, actually physicists, they try to break, the detail of these small particles, even the smaller particles, like looking, for what's deeper, and they gather some evidence, but still no data to construct some meaning out of this.
Yeah, exactly, right. So if you go,
So it looks like if we try to get some data to construct meaning, we are not able. This is the end of our discourse here.
or if we make meanings,
Yeah.
then eventually somebody will prove it's only a convention. There are many hundreds of other points of view. Everything, you have to you have to be inclusive. All the worldviews will matter. So how do you want to build yourself back to the world of truth?
Yeah, so let me quote Zen Master Sung San, who was very joyful about one of his ideas, also philosophical. He was a student of philosophy, as I recall. He said, Descartes was explaining, I think, therefore I am. But if I don't think, then what? And he was very joyful about this quotation.
Because
He was so happy, asking this. If I don't think, then what? And he was laughing. Other people may ask, what are you laughing about? It's so sad, There is nothing. And there is a point where, well, since many of people who raise their hands, they are sitters, they sit, and maybe I try to look at our discourse from the side. If people don't practice meditation, so this is the point where you need to kind of turn it off, and that's it. But if you continue to sit with this, then something happens. And it's kind of very difficult to, well, at least, maybe for you easier, since you are a teacher, to get some ideas to explain what's happening. As our friend Zen Master Chonghe said, when I practice meditation, I reach this total emptiness, but he says, we're very confused, he said, this emptiness is kind of very nice, kind of confused, explaining emptiness as something that feels good, that feels so friendly. And also, as some people who came with negative words to explain emptiness, this guy and other practitioners, they come with very joyful, they say, so cool, this emptiness is so healing, so great. But others listening to us say, what are you talking about? So how intellectually, to build a bridge between these two experiences? What is your take on this?
I'm glad you said intellectual because I'm starting to think that we as Buddhists in the West, we can bring a solution, not non-intellectual solution, to the problem of nihilism and the construction of values in this Western postmodern society. Why? Because the insight into emptiness, which is Buddhist, is not intellectual. It's an experience. And in this experience, the deeper you go, already when you see impermanence, that's pretty it's not a difficult insight, right? Already when you see emptiness, it's experiential. If you are intellectually oriented, like these great philosophers, then you can, deconstruct the values, kill your identity into a certain degree, kill God, kill the Buddha. Lynch also did that.
Yeah.
But that's only, the Sanim, our teacher, he would say, this is attachment to the idea of emptiness, not to the emptiness, this experiential emptiness. So that's one, right? So most of the problems come from conflating or mixing the idea of emptiness with the real insight. Because if you and me and you guys, as people, reach these moments of silence and peacefulness, and you don't get attached to it, because you will have problems if you get attached to the experience as well. But if you don't get attached to the experience, then, as this teacher says, empty, empty, happy, happy, right? Happy, happy appears. And it can sound like a promise or like another, Zen example of what heaven, another idea of salvation, right? Because it's not from your experience yet, but it can be. So you don't have to trust a mediator, a priest, the professor of theology. You can actually check it for yourself. There is happy, happy at the bottom of empty, empty, and it's called, and then let's go back, from India to further India and to China, it's called Buddha nature. And it's a potential. It's a potential of becoming one with the reality, which is in such a state of flux all the time. But the mind can also be in a state of change all the time. And when they come together, the mind and the reality, then something compassionate happens. And these are other sutras. The sutra, for example, of Ankavatara Sutra, the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. They talk about, it's not that only you're empty, it also means that there is a Buddha nature, which means potential for Buddha, it means awakening. The potential of awakening, it's inside you. And it's something which is kind of turning the table. Because all of a sudden it's like, you don't have to conquer the world, to feel happy. It's like the world is acting through you. So it's not you disappear as a person, that there is no self, but it's like the world and the person, they become one, or they are intertwined. And this means no longer there's loneliness, no longer there's this isolation of people with no shared value system. It means, it also means that maybe it's not that you're nothing, it's not that you're a winner or a loser, it's just we are sitting here listening to this voice. We can feel our butts safe on the chair. Our teacher says the sky is gray. right? And in this moment, there is world peace. There is world peace. So returning to this very moment without complicated stories and even without this big narrative, even without absolute values, and even if God is dead, returning to this moment is not lonely, it's safe, and for a moment there, you can just breathe in, breathe out, and building from the scratch, let's say, from this momentous scratch, we can rebuild ourselves from nothing to something, to something that has value. And obviously, Camille says that he wants to see the Sisyphus happy, right? But it's a little bit different than that, because he says you can attach meaning to whatever you do. You can become a librarian, you can become a student of this and that, but here you don't have to. It's enough just one breathing out, one moment breathing in.
So others may be listening to you. I hope you will have questions now, because we already had this little structure to introduce the concept. Other people may listen to our conversation and say, well, Buddhism promises nothing and delivers on giving nothing. But how to comprehend this? How much I need to be with this nothing, means minutes, hours, what are the data about this, just the idea you said, I already had that, but where you get this happiness from, you sat for a while, so how much do you need to do what? To perceive emptiness as something good.
Mm-hmm. So it's not only an idea, right?
Well, listening to you, you promised something great about emptiness. Well, many people are here. This is what I've heard. This is what I could interpret, that emptiness can be great. But how?
How long time do you think it is before you get it?
How to get happiness out of the emptiness, How?
Okay, so, yeah, any ideas?
Stay with it long enough.
Yeah, exactly. Staying long enough, because we had a taste, at least I tried. Right? I saw.
So you were a nun for some...
4 years, yes.
For 4 years.
Yeah, and but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that, because eventually, when you're a nun or a monk, there comes a moment when you sit down, and with just enough time, you see that nun is just a word. And if you're pretty well immersed in your meditation, then you're just a great bundle of 2 legs, 20 fingers, lungs, and everything's deconstructed, remember, right? So, nun, it's just like a winner or loser. Layperson, it's also a construct. You're gonna drop it all when you sit. However, you do have to sit for a while, and if you're a nun, or if you go to a Zen center, like once a week, so you create yourself a good environment to practice that. Because everybody, can read a book of Zen Master Sung San and say, we are all Buddhas. But how many of us know what it means, right? So words are very fast. They can imitate enlightenment and liberation, right? But can you do that? So how long?
Yeah, well, actually, while you were thinking, I can give you another answer. I was, researching something on the internet, and I found this a quote from, I think, Nagarjuna, and it said that emptiness is the womb of compassion. And I wrote to one of our teachers, what did Nagarjuna meant, saying like emptiness is the womb of compassion? Well, how it comes, compassion comes out of the emptiness. And his response was like, Rytis, you are experienced Buddhist. What kind of shit you asking me? Go to the retreat, sit at least for 4 days and bring me your own answer. So just to quote from that brutal teacher.
That's a good entry, yeah. So structurally, what do we have? You have your morning routine and your evening routine, which means you can start from a couple of minutes. If you want to, there are certain there's research about it. If you want to be calmer, sit for 30 minutes. If you want to be energized, sit 40. Well, there is a lot of structure there, if you want to create your own program. So morning sitting, a little bit of evening sitting, or at least once a day. Then it's helpful to have a community, because then we hold ourselves accountable. You can say, you can take precepts or duties in your community, your Zen community or your Buddhist community. And if you do that, it will motivate you to come back, because you have to clean the dishes. That's one example of how we practice not only, emptiness on the cushion, empty substance on the cushion, but also after the sitting, correct relationship, correct functioning, right? Correct situation, the truth. Then we have retreats, So from 2 days, it's gonna happen tomorrow. We will have one from 2 days in our school to 3 months. You can also have your solo retreat, which is even longer. And you have a certain training, which is called Dharma teacher training, where you really start from your foundations, right? You start with your ethics, you take Buddhist precepts. They are very similar to Decalogue. Decalogue, that's correct in Lithuania? Not in Lithuania, that's actually English. Yeah, I mean 10 amendments, no, 10 amendments.
10 commandments.
How?
Commandments.
Yeah, commandments. So yeah, you take precepts, so you work on your ethics and on your compassion, right? You learn some right view through the commentaries and sutras. That's your intellectual knowledge of the philosophy and psychology, Buddhist psychology. Then you learn certain functions, being a housemaster, cleaning those dishes, or being the head Dharma teacher, organizing the practice, and being the abbot of the Zen center. And you can think it's ridiculous, why do I have to be a housemaster in charge of cleaning the dishes, where I'm 30 and it's 21st century. But the whole administrative structure of the training in Buddhism reflects certain positions in life, right? So in the beginning you are a very low-ranking person, you do a lot of cleaning, and with your practice you're gonna gain more responsibility. You're gonna see yourself as somebody who has to have opinions, because you're making, you have to make your Zen center financially stable. So you have to go back to, right and wrong. Anyhow, then you have training. Is there anything else, do you think, when it comes to the practice in 21st century? The community, house practice, functions,
Well,
reading?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, and you come up with the ideas that you bring out from that emptiness, and that ideas of possible peace and agreement may sound radical, in public discourse nowadays. This is the pretty place, or we have many protests nowadays with kind of different rhetorics that we are using now. So I think out of this emptiness, you could come with some prospect of peace and love, and maybe take a stance to defend possible peaceful agreement.
Right. So then you have to choose your political option,
Yeah.
and your training will be there. I'm not saying you want to, how to vote. Possibly, you can be a good, liberal, a good, leftist, and good not Republican, but conservative. If you have good Buddhist values, I think that. But you will, have to have your political option, your view on how to raise your children, right? If you wanna make these frauds on taxes, you can also make your choice, or you wanna, what else is there? Basically your Buddhist practice will permit, your fitness training, if it's healthy or if it's an endurance show, your approach to sickness and stamina and mortality and beauty, right? Your Buddhist view will permit, what else was there? It will permit your, aesthetic choices, like what music do you listen to? What art do you support? It's gonna be everywhere, and the training will burst out in 10,000 directions, and that's the correct training, right? And it's no longer empty anymore, right? It's pretty, it requires fine-tuned reflection and very attentive relationship with, people and things. And it doesn't sound bad, I think, right? Now I'm thinking, was it a bad idea to talk about it philosophically and from the social perspective? And I think it sounds okay. I think it makes sense. It's not that we are Buddhists, we go to the temple and then we clean these dishes, and that's our Buddhism, because it's all about gardening. It's if you want to be a good Buddhist, you have to be a gardener, or you have to just be a cleaner at school. You cannot have your corpo work, right? You shouldn't read Kant, or definitely you shouldn't read Byung-Chul Han or whatever, because he's a philosopher, although he talks about the society of burnout. It's it's okay, to be engaged, politically engaged and socially engaged and reflective, I think. It doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, so if you make friends with Agata on Facebook, check out Agata Hae In, you can read her posts, she takes some stances on the world view, actually, so she really does what she says here. But I wonder, guys, maybe we are talking together too long. Could you please ask? Go ahead.
Well, coming back a little bit more to the emptiness or the kind of the absence of something, taking it just as an experience and then saying, okay, getting angry is an experience, feeling emptiness is an experience, washing dishes is an experience, feeling hungry is an experience. Defining that preference, or why go towards emptiness even if it's joyful? Why that? What's so good about it? And if it's so good, why is it not so popular? I mean, if it's achievable and if there's a sangha supporting, kind of getting to that, why there's plenty of people choosing the other path, let's say, be it other religion or non-religion. So maybe it's just for some people with some specific psychological makeup so attractive to be sitting in emptiness and joyful, while others are not finding it so fun. Maybe it's just a peculiarity for some people, like a hobby.
Yeah, very good question, right? If there's a solution to suffering, you know, why do we choose suffering? So I like to think that, you know, many people are Buddhists at times, which means they discover what we spoke about themselves, at least to some degree. You know, not completely, you know, but there are instances where regular people had their very deep insights into, you know, unity when in nature or in sex. Or when bringing up your child, or seeing it for the first time. I remember one mother told me, you know, she completely couldn't tell, is she here? Is she here? Was she here? You know? Anyhow, it happens. Okay, so it doesn't belong to a religious denomination, especially only Asian. That's one. Second, you know, Buddhists will say it's a matter of karma. So, you know, it's your precious human rebirth, and then you meet a Zen, or then you meet a teacher. It's such a remarkable, you know, one time in a billion occasion. And they have this metaphor. It's as if you are a turtle. And you're swimming, you know, in the Atlantic Ocean. Very deep. And only once in 1,000 years, you go out to the surface, one time. And on the surface of this Atlantic Ocean, there is this golden ring. It travels, you know, through the currents. It's taken away, you know, by the storms and tsunamis. And the possibility of being reborn a human, finding the Dharma with the teaching of emptiness, is exactly similar to the possibility of you, a turtle, going from your depths to the surface, exactly meeting the ring. So, it's about rebirth, right? A precious, favorable rebirth. Don't you think it's a bit, isn't it a bit, how do you call it, Buddha-centric? But anyhow, but that's the story. And then, you know, there's human nature. And so everybody's hungry, everybody's sometimes angry, everybody sees the sky is gray, or the wall is white. But then, you know, there is the poverty in the global south, you know, when it comes to hunger. And that's because we get attached to food and to production and to, you know, consumption. And, you know, the wall is white, but, you know, when it comes to race, we get attached to color, you know, to racism and stuff. So, despite we all have these, you know, natural impulses, you know, to see, to eat, and what else was there, we get attached to it. And not everybody can just simply perceive, just simply eat when eating, because it's just hard. And that, you know, the glory of, you know, being full, and I don't mean eating 2 hamburgers, but I mean having a yacht, having a plane, right? You know, being on this list of, now we have like candidates to be trillionaires with Elon Musk on the first point. The glory of being, you know, the winner is so big that we cannot just simply eat, and we cannot just simply perceive, and some people don't want to get rid of it because it's very diabolically amazing. We call it tanha, right? Desire. So yeah, do you have like another answer to why, you know, if there is a solution, emptiness is a solution, why don't we do it? Why it's like we have like 40 people here, right? Or 50, I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually, I noticed that the TV screen is a perfect illustration of our conversation. You know, it shows no signal, and actually this TV set kind of, you know, put some effort to hold this. Of course, with no signal it's kind of moving because it's hard to keep it, but there is constant effort. And to answer this question, you know, the interesting thing that's happening when you don't know the answers, when you are with this initial stage of dissecting everything, finding this void, but having courage to be long enough with this no signal, then something happens, and it's very difficult to kind of, you know, to give a safe roadmap like Google Maps, you know, to show, well, it's pretty comfortable road, you know. On the corner there will be the hill, and then after the hill this revelation comes. There is no such a map, because this is the void. And why some people choose this path? I don't know. Maybe people here can explain. Yeah, Alvydas, I see.
What comes to my mind, like I spoke, just coming here, spoke to one doctor who is doing surgery for obesity, you know, for very obese people, heavily obese. So basically it's very simple. If you want to, it's not good to be obese, so you just stop eating and it's problem solved, right? But so many people cannot do that, right? Cannot stop. It's so simple, you just don't eat, right? Or eat very little. So I guess it's the same here, right? There is solution, but to do these steps may be too difficult for many people, for many people.
That's tanha, that's desire, right? And it doesn't have to be to be a trillionaire. It can be just to watch Netflix instead of doing this morning routine, morning meditation, right? And it's very human. It's very human, and I noticed that some people they notice, and it's possible very fast, that when they sit after 30 minutes, after of struggling, it can be like that. They feel better after 30 minutes, like after a workout. And so their motivation becomes the actual experience of suffering dropping. And the other group is smaller. It's a smaller group. They have this empty, happy experience, or at least, or even a blissful state experience, and then they want to repeat that. They want to have liberation again. So the first group is they are inspired by their suffering, and the second group is inspired by their bliss. So you can like think what would be the best like strategy for you. Any other questions, or maybe reflections? I also really like to hear feedback, especially that it's such a. We came, you know, from a very complex perspective here today, unusually.
If I may, reflection question. Just few days ago I was listening some podcast, and I forgot the source, but it said like this: if you talk about shunyata, about emptiness, and tears do not appear in your eyes, then you do not get what is shunyata or emptiness is. So basically now I am talking about this without tears, and you were talking without tears. So does it mean nobody here? I do not see anybody in tears, so that we all do not get what is emptiness then?
Yeah, maybe we don't, but we are on our way. And you know, you can be very attached, like middle way attached, halfway attached, and non-attached. And it's still about you know, working with attachment. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be clear, you know, as you said, don't lie to yourself. We talk about emptiness, or we experience like emptiness right now.
But basically, this saying that tears should be okay. I understand it's a bit maybe emotional talk or whatever, but it's a bit sounds like, you know, some for example, Christians speak also. If you know, if you think about God, you know, tears should appear. So it's basically something similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come to the same space, probably, right? So this emptiness actually is not emptiness, in fact, right? It's something, right?
This is what we are trying to paint, and of course, it's even more. It's even more subtle than that, because in Buddhism we talk about attachment also to these subtle states of mind, like happy. That's also in Buddhism. It can also be a source of attachment, or silent. It's also only a half attainment. Or what else? Spacious, without any signal. All these features, they also have to be let go, including the crying when you meet emptiness. So it's even we don't. It's a public lecture. It doesn't make sense to go even there. But what's most important is try 10,000 times. 10,000 years non-stop. Be on the way. Have your emptiness as your direction, and helping others as your direction. And I think that's good enough for the National Library in Vilnius, I think. 2026. Also, we don't know what's happening under the skin of creatures sitting on these chairs, remember.
Yes, please ask questions. Yes, please go ahead.
What could be
I thought, yeah, I guess, could you wait a little bit?
Yeah. What could be happening under the skin of these creatures?
Excuse me?
What could be happening under the skin of these creatures? What is your mind? If you are open to share.
Don't know. I don't know.
You tell us.
What was happening inside your skin?
I'm the one who is asking now.
What?
I am the one who is asking now.
What is that? What is asking?
Who is the one who is asking?
Yeah.
And where is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, And then how long can you maintain this question? And can you make it infectious so it like spreads, towards others?
Like you are doing now.
Like you are doing, I think. Any other questions? This was a very good question. Did you want to ask or share something, Algis?
On the way here, when we planned this meeting, you proposed the name or title of this meeting, attachment to the
Yes.
attachment to the emptiness. Yes, and Rytis changed the name when he translated into Lithuanian. What Western people don't understand about emptiness. And for me, your title was had a little different meaning, because I thought that you will speak about some kind of relativism. Attachment to the emptiness it means that it's very, when people too attached to the emptiness, they are very relativistic. They have no feeling of truth. And in some Sungsan teaching is very important, this direction. So we talk a lot about this emptiness and experience of emptiness, but how it's related with ethic. So maybe a little bit more. Maybe you can explain some relations.
So in this article, did you read? There's this first vignette.
Yeah, it's about Ukraine. So if everything is empty, why not to kill people, you know?
It says, it's possible to distort Buddhist view, and it happens in New Age circles. They always like pull from ancient traditions without, you know, the full context. It says a radical non-dual teacher claims that there is no absolute right or wrong in the military actions of Russia. Because what's happening there is a karmic consequence of Ukrainian bad karma, yeah? And in reality and in emptiness, there is no war. There are no missiles. There are no guns, no rapes, no wounds, and in fact, since the identity is empty, there is nobody who suffers rape, nobody who dies, and nobody who programs the drones or inflicts pain. So that's an example of distorting a Buddhist view on ethics, on emptiness. It's insight into empty substance without the insight into truth and correct function, without the insight of compassion and ethics. Actually, that's a, you know, a pretty nasty example of becoming attached to idea of emptiness. So that's one example that comes to my mind, you know. So that's attachment to emptiness, right? So
Yeah.
you like do stuff not to take responsibility for complex political, social, or even relational problems, because you can use exactly the same, you know, mindset to say to your wife, why are you making so many problems, you know? You don't exist. And, you know, anger is the poison of the mind, and actually it's empty. And believe me, Buddhist practitioners do that. They say, don't get attached.
Yes.
Why do you cry?
So let me elaborate on this, because I know someone who is dear to me that has this perception of the world that, you know, everything is empty. This is the illusion, and our task is to cut off all the ties, as this person puts in wording, like, you know, get out of all the attachments. It means feel nothing, like pull out yourself from this hell, finally getting totally not attached to anything, and then you will be liberated. And when I point out to this person that this person is very attached to this very idea,
To the idea of the robot.
the conversation is stuck here. But yeah, it goes like this. It's illusion. What we need to do is kind of, you know, detach from this. So,
Did you want to comment?
Yeah, so if this miscommunication and misconception happens, isn't then the problem, for the lack of a better term, the language problem, that there's just no way or no good way figured out, no good metaphor figured out to make sure that the message crosses the bridge from one mind to another? That it's not any particular person who is intentionally choosing to attach to false ideas, but they're just unable to comprehend, and they end up stuck in false understanding because that's the best that they can do, because the teacher or the book or the source was too incomprehensible for them to not make that mistake, unlike for other people who make the correct understanding. It's just a poor experience of trying to, I don't know, eat from that fruit of tree of, with fruits of knowledge, and then just only getting scraps and not fully nourishing oneself. And it's a misunderstanding, ignorance, and therefore sort of a problem of marketing.
I really like what you said, because that's actually my observation. That, you know, when Zen was transported to the West, it was transported as this very rational, pure, experience-based, meditation-only system. It was stripped from the philosophy. We didn't import, you know, this. You saw, right? Nobody's reading the sutras. Nobody's like even reading the commentaries to the Zen teaching from China, right? And this is not how this training is designed. Traditionally, you know, even lay people, they start from ethics, from Dana Paramita, which means like generosity. You know, they support temples and stuff. You know, they start from what's the name of it? Anyhow, so they start from listening to the Dharma, contemplating the Dharma, which means Buddhist teaching, studying, and ethics. So these are very, like, everybody can do that. It's easier than meditation activities. But when Suzuki, this Daisetsu Suzuki Roshi, Suzuki, the intellectual, the Japanese intellectual, helped to transplant the Dharma to the West, he was like presenting Zen as only sitting, pure, like universal, not Buddhist activity. And that's why here in the West we don't have much right view. We don't teach right view really. In Theravada circles, yeah, maybe to some degree, and in Tibetan circles, but not in Zen. So the idea of Zen in the pop culture is, you know, right? Somebody, like you said, Rytis, right? A robot. No feeling, no needs, no anger, no personality, you know. And I think it's important that we restore this Buddhist context, because otherwise, you know, it created some problems for practitioners, and it supports attachment to emptiness. Of course, it's not the only solution, but it can be one of the solutions. You know, good explanations. So I think we are approaching to the end. So maybe one more question or one more comment.
I would like this. So, for example, if I would like to practice the Zen and the meditation and feeling the emptiness, not being attached, what would be a good, maybe future-proof solution to not go into those radical, like beliefs about only the attaching from the stuff, which could lead to, for me to being like a person who preaches about it all the time, for example, or like moralizing about it.
Good antidote, you mean?
Yes, that would be that. Or maybe also I wanted to ask, is there some Zen teachings that talks about this problem that people might go, and how do they talk about it?
Our teacher does from the beginning, but it doesn't. It didn't protect many of us from going there. But I think, yeah, maybe you have some idea what could be an antidote. What could be an antidote? I definitely fall prey to attachment to emptiness, and I was like practicing hard and studying hard, and yet it happened.
What if there are stages, you know? What if the stage of attachment to emptiness is unavoidable in this path? There is no shortcut. As Zen Master Sung San, I think he was asked, you know, well, listening to you, it sounds pretty difficult, all this practice. Is there any shortcut in Zen? And his response was like, shortcut? Not for me. So I'm afraid there is no shortcut. That, you know, this holding no signal, all this 1 hour, you know, all this effort, this attempt to break into something that is unbreakable, and after paying enough effort, even finding this is meaningless, this is also one of the stages, you suddenly break through. Well,
No, I think you're right. I think actually, you know, there is a Surangama Sutra. It's a sutra containing the description of 50 demonic states that can happen not when you practice incorrectly, but if you're a highly skilled samadhi concentration master. And you know, demonic means, maybe back then they didn't have this word, psychiatry. So some people say, I'm not saying, you know, the demonic states don't exist. I in my practice, you know, the way I teach, I try to like rephrase it. It can be a it can be, you know, an experience filled with hallucinations, delusional states, auditory or visual distortions of perception, and it happens still to the minority of practitioners. So there is a warning from the day one in Buddhism, right? Just don't get attached to your highly concentrated states. They are great because, you know, once you are able to do that, man, you're gonna get so attached. It's gonna happen. Like you say, right? It's a systematic, developmental, unavoidable stage. But if you know that, then it's a little better. Then you have your sangha, and they will gonna tell you, you know, they're gonna check you and say, this is bullshit, happily. You're gonna suffer because of that. You know, such a undervalued achiever. Nobody recognized me. So that's gonna be good for you. And you have a teacher. He's gonna tell you, and he will stay with you these 5 years because it's gonna last that long. And well, this is what happened in my case at least.
And the last question would be, does the old teachings of Zen or Buddhism talk about this thing?
Yes. Old?
The old
Zen?
ones,
Yeah.
the 2000 years ago,
Yeah.
etc.
So before Bodhidharma, there was this, now it was translated by Graham Greene. He's an academic, but he did amazing work of translating it. It's called Zen Sickness. Also 19th century reviver of Rinzai Zen Hakuin, Zen Master Hakuin. He also was talking about Zen sickness. Our teacher is also talking about Zen sickness. That's attachment to emptiness and to effortful silence. So that's before Bodhidharma, so before 5th century. And there are many texts like this. Mahayana, you know, this new Buddhism in China, when it's like very Mahayana was looking down on the early teaching, but they also had this teaching, you know, that the original listeners of Buddha Pratyeka Buddhas and Shravakas, they were not fully accomplished because they were attached to emptiness. Actually, you know, the whole Buddhism is a warning story and a trigger warning. Like, you know, in Netflix you have like violence, you know, sexual, like swear words, and in Zen it was always like emptiness. There were trigger warnings from the very first day.
Yeah, to summarize somehow this verses from Ikkyu Sudzun comes into my mind, this Japanese Zen poet. I don't recall exactly, but it goes like, I see your pain, I'd like you to help to offer something, but in our school of Zen we have nothing. And this is the way to help.
Thank you, Rytis. It was a I think it's a good closure. It was fun to talk with you. I think we did it, right?
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you for all you patient listeners. We would like to invite you to the Vilnius Zen Center and our wonderful abbot. Maybe you can say what is the day you guys meet and stuff.
Yes, please advertise.
Vilniaus Zen centras yra koordinatai. Yra Zen.lt, internetinis puslapis, ir jeigu norite bandyti praktiką, tai mes renkamės praktiškai, praktikos vyksta kasdien, tik kartais labai anksti, bet šeštadienį, reiškia, šeštadienį ir sekmadienį nuo pusės 8 ryto, antradienį ir penktadienį nuo 7 vakaro, o darbo dienomis yra nuo pusės 6 ryto. Bet yra internete, Zen.lt informacija ir telefonai, nes principė pirmą kartą atėjus vis tiek reiktų, būna toks instruktažas, šiek tiek mes papasakojam, kad ne ateit tiesiai į praktiką, o mes papasakojam, supažindinam. Tai, nežinau, ką čia papildyti dar yra knygos, galbūt yra Sunksano knygos čia.
Pelenų barstymas ant būdas.
Taip?
Čia pelenų barstymas ant būdas.
Taip, pelenų barstymas.
Jau tas konganas, kurį aš minėjau, tai yra viena iš
Čia
istorijų.
jinai taip ir vadinasi ta knyga, tai galima įsigyti. Ir dėžutę aukų gali paaukoti mūsų veiklai.
Super. Ir duokit mums grįžtamą į ryšį, nežinau, padėkit mums suprasti, ar jums buvo prasmingas šis laikas. Buvo prasminga, gal galite pakelt ranką? Was it meaningful? Can you raise your hand?
Okay. It was? That's good, really. I was like expecting.
It was empty.
But in a good way.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you.
Let's